Man, Norwegian fairy tales are weird. And no, I'm not talking about Alexander Rybak's song Fairytale. Hello, I'm Romelia, and I have gone through several periods of fairytale obsessions, and I want to talk about it. If you take the beginning of Beauty and the Beast, mix it with Cinderella, and adds a bit of rat poison, you get the first part of The Green Knight by Norwegian Asbjörnsen Moe. This is a story that my grandparents used to read to me and my brother when we were staying over at their place as a bedtime story. And looking back, I kind of questioned their judgment. I love this story, don't get me wrong, but I was also the kind of kid who liked Scar and the hyenas only in The Lion King, and Rasputin was the coolest character ever. Like I said, this story starts very much like I remember Beauty and the Beast, with the father leaving and the daughters wishing for him to take something with him. Except we have more of a Cinderella kind of situation where the two oldest are his stepdaughters. And in typical fairy tale fashion, the stepdaughters wishes for really specific and odd things. Like these two, one of them wants a golden loom, but no bigger than it can stand on a silver coin. And the second oldest wants a yarn spinner. Same criteria, it has to be made of gold and be able to fit on a silver coin. His own daughter, also in typical fairy tale fashion, wishes for nothing, just that if he sees the Green Knight, to say hi to him from her. That's it. And of course, as the story goes, he manages to get these hyper-specific things his stepdaughters want, but forgets about his own daughter. That is until they hold an event to celebrate that they won the war, and he sees the Green Knight. So he says hi to the Green Knight, and the Green Knight thanks him and gives him a book. Tells him to give this to his daughter, and she can only open it when she's alone, and the father can't open it. That's the criteria. She has to be the one to open it, and she has to be alone. Not at all sketchy. I know. Cue enchanted book that when she opens it brings the Green Knight to her room. And that's kind of the start of their romance, of course. And this is all fine and fairy tale-esque, you know. Nothing new and odd in a fairy tale fashion. The next part is a bit different. The stepmother is nosy, and she hears her stepdaughter talk with someone in her room, and she tries everything she can think of to find out who are you talking to. But as soon as stepdaughter closes the book, the Green Knight is gone, she's all alone. She can tell them, oh, I was just reading in this book. The stepmother even tries to talk to her husband, who is like, but it's only a book, let her read the book. And since the father is also a king, he eventually has to leave again. And that's when the stepmother makes her move. She digs a hole in the ground, or she has people dig a hole in the ground, and in this hole they build a house. And this is where the rat poison comes in, because she makes sure that they fill the walls with rat poison, and she locks her stepdaughter in there, along with her lady-in-waiting. Days pass, and when she opens the book, the Green Knight tells her that there's rat poison in the walls and it had made him sick. So he's deadly ill. Don't ask me how this magical transportation works and why the waltz suddenly plays a role in making him sick. I don't know. It's a fairy tale. So the princess and her maid runs away with the help of the maid's fiancé and the guy who built the house. And they run away to faraway lands. And everywhere they go, they ask for the Green Knight. The knight turns out to be a prince, and his people know he's sick. I question that they know the details of his sickness, but he's sick, so his castle is draped in black fabric. That's a lot of fabric. And the princess and the maid overhears some people talking about how he can only be cured if this specific girl boils these specific herbs in milk and feeds him 3 days in a row. The princess buys like doctor's clothes and pretends to be a doctor, goes to the king and says that I can cure your son. The king is like, I don't think you can, but no harm in trying, I guess. So, you know, she cures him. They live happily ever after. The stepmother gets rolled down a hill in a spike barrel. Typical fairy tale fashion. Like I said, my grandparents used to read this story as a bedtime story to us. And I guess that kind of explains why I get nightmares when I don't consume weird horror-y stuff for a while. I don't mind when fairy tales are their original violent, sometimes weird selves. I actually think there's a lot to learn, like history-wise and about the time period and area, just from their fairy tales. But once in a while I remember this specific story and go, man, that was weird. And I don't think it's the rat poison and spike barrel that stands out to me. No, actually I think the rat poison is what's the biggest weird thing for me. Mostly because I don't understand how it affects the travel. Is he just sapping to the book, or is he coming from the book? I think that's the weirdest part, but the rat poison was kind of weird to me as a child. But despite that weird point and some unreasonable decisions being made, I absolutely love this story. It's one of my favorite fairy tales, and I would recommend it to pretty much anyone and everyone. Thank you so much for watching, have a great adventure, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!